estimates with your employers about what will be done to keep you as workers and the public that you interact with as safe as possible.
Good to see you, thank you. Christina McInerney, Unison's General Secretary. Ian is in Burton-on-Trent. Thanks for your patience, Ian. Where are you with all of this? Hi.
Yeah, it's a bit of a challenge, really. I run, or part of the team that runs a village social club, and the ambiguity between what will be published as guidance and the guidance hasn't yet been updated for our environment for next week, and the message around, it's freedom and rules are being lifted. The ambiguity that is a challenge for us. Do we try and hold a stricter line? That's a competitive disadvantage to us, to the rest of the venues in the area. But then, with our responsibility, I think, unfortunately, what's happening is that the government is allowing or pushing the responsibility for public health decisions onto individual businesses. I think that's unfair.
I suppose, I don't know, you tell me, if you decided that you were only going to let people with masks onto the premises, are you allowed to turn people away at the door?
Yeah, as long as we do that in a way that doesn't discriminate against people, absolutely, yeah, we could do. But as I say, that's a competitive disadvantage. We've seen how guidance has been followed in other venues, and by and large, generally very, very well. But at the margins, other venues have been a bit more generous, and I think we certainly have lost customers because we try to hold a bit of a firmer line. For us to survive, we need to get people through the door. We want to have parties for people's birthdays, anniversaries, people's wakes, etc., weddings. But we want to do that safely, of course we do, absolutely we do. But it's going to be really difficult, and so the guidance looking out even now is really frustrating. It double happens like this, we get sort of put out to prepare.
Ian, thank you. Ian saying he's not very happy about being left to make these decisions. Here's Nick on text. As an employer, I will be keeping teams at home to avoid the hokey-cokey of app pings, having to keep opening and closing. Technology no longer requires our teams to be in the same place. Ed says, you asked about workplaces. I've spent most of this pandemic doing various temporary jobs in warehouses. I think I must have seen the inside of 6 or 7 warehouses. There's no social distancing whatsoever in any of these places. And if people do wear masks, they usually wear them on their chins so they can breathe through their mouths. So the idea that lifting restrictions is going to have an impact on their workplaces is nonsense, because the restrictions are being completely ignored anyway. 0345 6060 973. The power to the people, says Boris Johnson. From Monday in England, the rules no longer apply when it comes to social distancing, face masks, working from home. Do you rejoice and celebrate, or frankly are you worried? You can text 84850 631. The COVID report coming soon. After the headlines, here's Tim Humphrey.
Most coronavirus restrictions will end in England a week today. That means nightclubs can reopen, while weddings, house parties and other events will have no limits on numbers. Masks won't be legally required, but they will still be recommended on public transport and in crowded areas. Nightclubs and some other venues will be urged to use the COVID app to monitor vaccination or negative test status. Sir Keir Starmer says he's appalled by the racist abuse of England footballers following their defeat to Italy in the Euro 2020 final. But the Labour leader says Boris Johnson should have condemned fans who booed England players taking the knee at the start of the tournament. And the weather, showers this evening over southern England and East Anglia, gradually easing, leaving clear spells and a few fog patches, a low of 11.
LBC, Nick Ferrari at breakfast. Weekday mornings from 7. And Senator MP and one of the Prime Minister's colleagues, Elizabeth Ed Harger, do you think then that restaurants will be able to open full capacity, theatres,
so angry. Not only has he thrown vulnerable people to the wolves, how can you open up slowly and ditch all the rules at the same time? It's precisely because there are people who won't act in a socially responsible way. We need clear rules in a pandemic. And Phil is in South Gloucestershire. Phil, how are you?
I'm fine, Eddie. How are you?
Fine. What do you think?
I think that we are very, very confused on the problem.
What's confused and muddled about it? What about Mark's point that we're all being treated like children and
COVID wave could lead to between 1,000 and 2,000 hospital admissions every day, with between 100 and 200 daily deaths, even though there is a large amount of uncertainty in the modelling. Labour leader Sir Keir Starmer has accused the Prime Minister of being reckless.
That we all want to ease restrictions, but with infection rates still going up at a rate going up, this plan is still reckless, I'm afraid. We need a safe way of coming through this, and I feel very strongly at the moment that the government wants to put the country in a car without a seatbelt to get as quickly as possible to the end of the roadmap. We need a safer way, but this is, I'm afraid, still reckless.
From Monday, the work from home instruction is being lifted, and we've also learned this afternoon that MPs from next week will be allowed to fill the House of Commons chamber for the first full capacity session of Prime Minister's questions since the pandemic began. Ever since last March, just 50 MPs at a time have been allowed in the chamber. Meanwhile, today, passengers at Heathrow were stuck in long queues after a large number of security staff were told to self-isolate. The airport says there was congestion in Terminal 5 departures thanks to some employees being contacted by NHS Test and Trace. They say they've since brought in other team members to cover the shortages and that the system's now returned to normal. A major study's found people who are vaccinated against influenza may be partially protected against some of the more severe effects of coronavirus. The analysis of nearly 75,000 COVID patients found significant reductions in things like strokes, deep vein thrombosis and sepsis. Israel's become the first country in the world to officially offer a so-called third booster jab. They'll be offering third doses of the Pfizer COVID-19 vaccine this week to adults with serious pre-existing medical conditions. Israel's been wildly hailed for rolling out one of the world's fastest vaccination drives. Last month, the UK government gave provisional support for a booster campaign starting here in September. And lastly, let's take a look at the latest coronavirus numbers. There have been a further 34,000 new cases of coronavirus in the UK, according to the latest government data. It's the 6th day in a row cases have been above 30,000, and there have also been 6 new deaths reported within 28 days of a positive test.
Rachel Venables with your COVID report. Well, tell me, with this freedom that Boris Johnson is giving you in England from Monday, what do you plan to do with it? Mask off whenever you can? Ditching social distancing? Maybe getting back to your workplace? 0345 6060 973. Ed says, Boris tells us to use our common sense. Is that what Boris did when he shook COVID patients' hands and caught COVID? That's common sense for you. Richie in Sutton says, wearing a mask is horrible. I'm a lonely person who lives alone. Seeing people and sharing a smile is important to my well-being. Mask wearing was always supposed to be an extreme, temporary measure, not forever. I can't wait not to wear them. And this text says, so people can be trusted to take responsibility. Where were the masks yesterday at the match? I saw possibly 4 or 5 people wearing masks. Yeah, really responsible. And with all that hollering and cheering, just imagine all those lovely droplets being released into the air. This text says, on the Piccadilly line today at 3 o'clock going west, it was crowded. Half the people didn't wear a mask or wear it correctly. Most don't care about the rules. You can't trust them with anything other than selfish decisions. 0345 6060 973. Are you glad not being told what to do from Monday? Or are you worried, as these listeners are, about the consequences? You can text 84850, tweet at LBC. In a moment, we'll talk to Dr. Peter Droback, Global Health Security Expert at Oxford University. Now, 6:45. Here's Tim Humphrey with the news.
Final lockdown restrictions in England will be eased next week, but masks are still being recommended on public transport. Nightclubs are being urged to use the COVID app to check test or vaccination status. And the weather showers this evening over southern England and East Anglia will gradually ease, leaving clear spells and a few fog patches, a low of 11.
LBC Travel, I'm Dave. Got off on the underground because of flooding. There's no service on the central line between Marble Arch and North Acton. There's also no service on the Bakerloo line between Stonebridge Park and Harrow and Wealdstone. Because of flooding, these tube stations are shut. Barons Court, Chalk Farm, Golders Green, Hampstead, Holland Park, Kilburn Park, Marble Arch and Regent's Park. Also, because of a signal failure, there's no service on the entire Circle line. There's no service on the District line from Earls Court to Richmond, Ealing, Broadway or Wimbledon. There's no service on the Hammersmith and